we have just been tweeting and posting other messages, so it has been a bit quiet. Yes, please. Hello, everybody. I apologize for a bit of delay, and I would like to welcome you all for the third eTwinning Inclusive Education Group Expert Talk. Today, as a guest, we have Frazier Tsai, and I hope I have pronounced it correctly, from USA. Karen is one of my dear colleagues, and we have been working and collaborating in several online courses. And I'm very happy that she has joined us, because Karen is a great expert when it comes to teaching students English, but also she has developed many interests, and one of those is teaching students with special needs, especially in learning of the languages. She has been working in the field of English as a foreign language or English as a second language for the past 30 years, conducting different and many teacher training workshops in the USA and Taiwan. She also works with English language learners in Seattle at the moment, and providing English-speaking opportunities for adults and children. She loves to teach through song and story time for international toddlers, and also mentoring international mothers and reading English stories. One of the important things is that she's a co-author of one of the world's best-selling children's English courses, Let's Go, for Oxford University Press, and she has also had several courses, online courses for the Oxford University Press and ITDI. And before we start, I would like to say hi to everybody. And Karen, if we could ask you to share your camera as well. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Expert talk here, and I hope you are going to enjoy this session. Before I give the microphone to Karen, I would like to tell you that I'm going to post through the chat several times the form for the certificate. Hi, Karen.
Hi there.
We can see you now. And thank you so much for coming. It's interesting. It's about 9-hour difference from Croatia or any part of Europe from Seattle. So she is probably drinking coffee and was able to join us. Thank you so much, and I think I have presented the most interesting parts about you. I'm going to give you the mic and mute myself. You are good to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariana. And to all of you here today, welcome. I'm really pleased that you've taken the time to join us. I know that it's a busy time of year. You may be getting toward the end of the first session or first semester at your school. It's holiday time, whether you're preparing for Christmas or New Year or another holiday. So I really do understand how very busy you are, and I'm so thrilled that you're here today with me. On that note, I want you to just think about all that you're doing right now as you are trying to do grades for midterms or finals. You are working with your students on special programs, perhaps, for the holidays. You yourself are getting ready for things at home. There's a lot that is distracting you, and you still want to do a good job and teach your students well and do everything well. But sometimes it's overwhelming. And that is an image I want to have you keep in mind as we explore our topic today on capitalizing on gifts and minimizing the challenges with students that have dyslexia and other special needs. So to get started, I want you to please take a look at this picture. And I want you to tell me in the chat box how many faces you see in this picture. So if you can, type in the chat box and just let me know how many pictures you see, how many faces. Okay, 6, 8, 10, 9, 8, 12. Oh, very good. I actually have found 11. So Cornelia, you found one more than I have. So congratulations. That's great. But the whole idea is this is an optical illusion, and we each have our own perspective on this picture. And it's the same thing when we're talking about the teaching situation that we find ourselves in. Each of us is in a different situation. Our experiences are a little bit different. And it does make a difference on how we handle the things in our classroom and how we deal with the students who have special needs. I want to ask one thing of each of you to tell me where you are teaching. Are you in an English class, in a math class, in a standard classroom for children? Just type that in the chat box as well. I'd just like to know where you are teaching. English class, computer science, high school teacher, kindergarten, an economics class. Okay. So we do have a combination of people in our group today, visual arts class, okay. Well, I want to have that information because what I'm going to tell you today is focused on younger learners. However, it applies to students at all ages because it gives you a background of what a student with special needs goes through to get to the point that they're successful. Now, I am not going to focus on every kind of special need. I am going to focus on dyslexia today. So bear that in mind that what we're discussing is dyslexia, but it affects people in a visual arts class, in an English class, in an economics class, in all the other classes that we're teaching. It does have an effect on what's happening. So I want to share some ideas with you and see if we can come up with some suggestions that will be helpful for you. Okay, look at this boy here. Does this look familiar to you? Have you ever had a student that looks like that in your class? Once? Yes, seldom. Well, I think it does depend on the student's background, but a student who has special needs actually may look like that. They're very frustrated. They're trying so hard. They don't want to be different. They don't want people to think that they can't do it. but they just have a hard time figuring it out. And so there are other things that may be bothering a child that looks like this too, and we will talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. But one of the key things is if you see a child like that, it's worthwhile to take the time to talk to him privately and see what's happening. Because if it's something that's related to something outside of class, you can encourage him that those things will get better. If it's a specific thing with a problem in learning in class, then you can address those needs, but it's important to talk to him about it. So as we go through today's presentation, I want to explore 3 topics. What is dyslexia? Understanding dyslexia? And the implications for teaching in whichever classroom you're in. So first, what is dyslexia? Can you take a moment and type in the chat box what you think dyslexia is? 1 word, 2 words, whatever is easiest for you to type in there will be fine. It is a disorder. You think it's something a child has from birth? Or do you think it's something that develops over time? It is related to words. It is a disability that we are able to work with and help them fix, reading disability. Does it come from birth? Do they have it from the time they're born? Is it hereditary? Okay, well, let's move on, and I will share with you that yes, it does begin to develop when children are very young. There is some evidence that it is hereditary, that it runs in families. And it also is a result of what children encounter in their environment and reactions from people. And they create, each person who's dyslexic creates their own issues. They create their own way of working with it. So it's important to know that it is a combination of things. The children who have dyslexia do not want to appear dumb. They want to fit in with everybody in the classroom. They try really hard, but they have some things that block their learning, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, what is dyslexia? It is a combination of any of the following possible problems: severe reading, spelling, and/or writing delay. They reverse symbols, whether we're talking about the alphabet or mathematical symbols. They mix them up, they turn them around. They get confused with time and space. They actually get disoriented if there's too much input and they really don't even know what to do with it. It causes difficulty with comprehension. And yes, dyslexia also has a component related to math and computation with numbers. So it is a combination of any of the following problems. Now, dyslexia develops over time. It does start when a child is very young, and it is a result of the way that child's brain is processing information. And dyslexia then becomes a problem with the person's ability to read. It doesn't develop from day one, but it begins slowly to accumulate. And then by the time they are getting ready to read, that is when we really notice it. Now, I have another question. Is dyslexia always a learning disability? Or can it possibly be something else too? What do you think? Is it always a problem? It actually is not always a problem. Believe it or not, there is a gift and a talent among those who have dyslexia. And that's part of what we are going to be talking about today. So let's move ahead. And we're going to first start with understanding dyslexia. Now, children who have dyslexia, it started probably as young as 3 months of age. What it is a perception of the world. And children with dyslexia have an incredible talent for seeing the world at a very young age and making connections between different things. You know, most of us, when we have a young child in our house, when they're a baby, when they see you, you're in their mind, and when you leave their vision, you're not in their mind. But a child with dyslexia is able to look at an elbow and then make connections and figure out who that person is. They have an incredible talent for seeing much more than the typical child. They are very visual, and it becomes a routine way that they look at everything around themselves. They think in pictures, and for the first 4 years of their life, they're developing this incredible talent and ability to see things, and it's not really a huge problem until they begin to read. Now, when the mother or father or a family member is trying to read to them at a young age, they may not be interested in the book for very long, because they prefer the big picture. They prefer seeing things around them and making mental pictures. So you may find that they lose interest in books quickly. But again, it's not a problem until they're actually ready to read. So what are some of the basic abilities that all children, all persons with dyslexia share? Number one, and it is one of the most important ones, they are able to use the brain's ability to alter and create perceptions. They see so much more than your average person. They make connections between things that, you know, most of us don't, we just don't do that, but they do, and it starts at an early age. They think mainly in pictures instead of words, and this is another really key point. They are also very, very aware of everything in their environment. Sometimes that's too much and it's an overload, but they are aware. They are very curious, and out of that curiosity and awareness of environment, they are able to learn very quickly, and they have great insight into things at a young age. They also have great intuition. There's sort of this subliminal thing as they're getting all these pictures in their mind. They seem to understand what's coming next, and they really get it, where, again, some of us don't have that talent. They use all their senses when they're thinking. They always think and perceive in multi-dimensions, and they can actually experience what they're thinking as reality. So they have very vivid imaginations. Now, this is a list of famous people who have dyslexia or had dyslexia. Look at that list. It's a group of people that have made some kind of significant impact on the world. They're creative, they're inventive. They see and come up with things that the average person does not. But they all had dyslexia, and they all have had teachers that have said, well, you've got trouble with learning. But in spite of it, they have figured out how to succeed, and they have done very, very well. So my point in sharing this is dyslexic people actually are highly intelligent. Now, they may not invent something new in the world, but they are very gifted, they're very intelligent. It's just they have trouble with processing words in reading. So we keep in mind that every one of us has gifts, including the individuals who are dyslexic. We just open our gifts at different times and in different ways. And that's our challenge as teachers. You know, you've got a classroom of 20 or 30 kids, and you want to help each child develop their gifts and develop their talents, and then you have one that needs a little bit of extra help, extra care. And that is where we are when we're dealing with somebody with special needs. So what I want to do today is have us look at dyslexia with a little different perspective. Keep in mind that image that you have of how busy you are during the holidays, teaching, getting everything done at school, and getting everything ready for your holiday. And also keep in mind that our students and adults with dyslexia have a gift. They have a talent for seeing things outside of the box. They are very creative. So let's keep that in mind as we look at this. Dyslexia is actually the result of a perceptual talent. In other words, it's the result of how they see the world. People with dyslexia think in pictures. They do not think in sounds. They do not hear sounds in their head. They see pictures. So their whole thought process is based on hundreds of thousands of pictures in their head, and they don't hear the sounds of words. What are the gifts in our dyslexic learners? They are able to make those visual connections at a very young age. Yes, as early as 3 months. They are very curious and aware of their environment, and they think in pictures up to 32 pictures per second versus the 2 to 5 thoughts in the average verbal thinker. Most of us are verbal thinkers, and we will have thoughts that go through our mind, but a dyslexic individual has just like a rapid fire of pictures when they're thinking. And that can cause confusion because it's going so fast. They do think in multiple directions or dimensions, and they're creative, imaginative. They have a high level of intuition and a high level of concentration. And it's the concentration and this thinking of in pictures up to 32 pictures per second that begins to cause them their problems. Now you look at this picture and we've got dyslexia upside down, in circles, around, different shapes, every which way. And that's what's happening with our kids with dyslexia and the adults. They see print upside down, from the back, from the inside, all over. And it's all happening like 32 pictures per second. And they actually think 400 to 2,000 times faster than those of us who think in a verbal mode. Oh my goodness, how can we keep up with that? No wonder when they're trying to focus, but they've got all these pictures going through their mind, they get confused and their perception changes and they have a hard time focusing on the page. But that is a reality of somebody with dyslexia. So what is it like to have dyslexia? I gave Mariana a whole set of links, but there are 2 things that I would really like you to take the time to look at when we're done with the seminar. And one is a link to a video where people who have dyslexia are talking about what it is like to have dyslexia, what it was like for them in their classroom. It gives us a much better idea of what it is these individuals are going through and what they think. It's a great video. And the other one is a book, and I'm going to hold it up here in front. It's called The Gift of Dyslexia by Ronald D. Davis. He is a man who has dyslexia. He shares his personal insights, and he also now has a center to help dyslexics deal with their dyslexic challenges in reading and overcome them so that they are successful. It's an excellent book with a lot of good information that I highly recommend everybody read. So, what are the problems dyslexics face once they go to school? They're okay until they begin to read. And at that point, noise and chaos around them distracts them. They become very easily overwhelmed and frustrated. They cannot sound out words, and this is a key thing we need to understand. A student, a child who has spent their whole life thinking in pictures does not hear the sounds of words, and as a result, they cannot sound out words, so it is a big problem for them. They become dizzy, and they can become disoriented, and they have to focus really hard and concentrate to try and read so that they block out all the other noise and sounds and they stop the dizziness. And it makes them read slowly. To keep up with it, that's the only way they can do it. They also are sad and embarrassed and affected by people thinking that they're dumb because they can't read fast. And this really is upsetting to them. So they may develop low self-esteem. Words for a dyslexic person are actually all over the place. They're upside down, inside out, backwards, forwards, and they appear in different directions. And I'm sorry, my phone went off. I have to turn it off. And it's very hard for them to read because of this. They also have trouble with the sight words and symbols, whether we're talking letters or whether we're talking mathematical symbols. It turns all over the place, like I just showed you in the previous slide. So this causes confusion when the dyslexics try to read a sentence or they try to read a math problem. So what I want you to do is get a little experience of what it's like for a person with dyslexia. Read this sentence silently, and when you're done, I'm going to ask you a question. When you were reading that sentence, did you hear the words in your head? If you did, tell me yes. Just write yes in the chat box. Did you hear each word in your head as you were reading? It looks like all of us were doing that. And that is what normally happens for all of us when we read. We are verbal readers. Yes, and we can also imagine the pictures. That's true, Theodora, we can. I can envision this brown horse jumping over the stone fence. But we read in a linear fashion, and we actually verbalize the words in our mind one at a time, and we get the whole sentence by the time we get to the end with the period. Now, for a dyslexic person, it's totally different. They have trouble because every word that they see should make a picture in their mind. They think in pictures. But there are certain words, sight words, that they cannot picture and they stumble over. So let me show you the next screen. This is how someone with dyslexia would process the very same sentence. Right away, they run into a sight word, the. And when it's a sight word or a word they cannot get a mental picture of, it's a blank. And it causes confusion. So right from the beginning of this sentence, they have a problem. Then they push past it and they can read brown. So, okay, they see the color brown. They keep reading, they push past the, and then they read brown, horse. So now brown has become brown like on a horse. They keep reading and they see the horse has jumped. Then jumped over, and then the jumped over, uh-oh, there's another word they can't read because you cannot picture the. So there's confusion again. But they push through and they keep reading, blank, brown horse jumped over blank stone. They can get a picture of stone. And they move on, blank, brown horse jumped over stone fence, and finally brown horse jumped over blank stone fence blank. Oh my golly, by this point, they're stopped. Yes, how difficult it is for someone with dyslexia to read. Terribly difficult, terribly trying, and when they get to this point where you see all of those stars in red and stop, that's when they become totally confused and they get disoriented. And it's at that point, suddenly the words change. And so if they try to keep reading, the word ran might be run, and then through might be turned upside down, and the is missing, and then they might read pasture as the word picture. And they totally do not understand and comprehend the sentence because everything has become disoriented. And it's really hard for them, terribly difficult. So what do we do as teachers? What are the implications for teaching? Well, most importantly, we need to use a lot of pictures. Pictures with words, as you see here. These are classroom commands. These are what you use to help the kids understand what's going on in your classroom. But you should do that with everything. Have lots of pictures with words underneath. Our students with dyslexia cannot sound out words. They memorize complete words. So in other words, show them a picture and help them understand what that picture represents, and then they will memorize, use quiet voices. Now, remember, they understand the language. Even English language learners have a certain amount of English they understand. It's that they can't read it. So you need to combine pictures and words. Absolutely avoid all these wonderful type fonts that we have on our computers. If you have someone with dyslexia in your room, this would be totally overwhelming and totally confusing for them. And we should never, ever use those kinds of typefaces. What we need to do is use very simple, clear letters, like you see in this alphabet song that was actually from Let's Go. But I want to tell you something. Even though we've used simple, clear letters, and we teach the students the alphabet song, a person with dyslexia doesn't really read and know the sounds of the letters in their head because they don't hear sound, remember? So they may memorize the alphabet song, and they can sing it with everybody, but what they cannot do is sound out all of that and begin to put them together to sound out words. So they may seem like they know the alphabet, and they may be able to say it harshly, but they really don't understand the phonemes, the sounds, and that is where they have trouble. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. The other example of the type here, if you notice at the bottom of each letter, it's a little bit darker, it's a little heavier, it weights the letter down, it weights the numbers down, and actually it helps the dyslexic person keep from turning the letters around. If you're using a type font that has heavier letters at the bottom like this, but simple and clear, you will help them keep from distorting the words and turning them all upside down and around. So these kinds of typefaces are the best, clear, simple letters. Also, practice alphabet letters with real objects they can move. Use the cubes, use bottle caps and put the alphabet letters on the top. Help them manipulate it and give them a mental picture of the alphabet that they actually experiment with. These people with dyslexia actually are very creative, and everything that you can do to make it hands-on is great. And it's also good for all of your students in the class. Now, if you notice right here at the bottom, I've got alphabet construction puzzle. And I'm going to hold it up here. I've got one, oops, here with me. If you notice, I've got plastic pieces. And they can put these letters together, make a T, a capital T. And by letting them picture it and manipulate it, you will give them a much better sense of the alphabet. And see, here's another plastic letter here to make the letter, or plastic pieces to make the letter S. This is another link that I've provided through Mariana for you. So if you're interested in that, you can find it. But the main point here is our students with dyslexia, whether it's in math, economics, English, history, they need to manipulate things. They need to be able to form a mental picture. And once they do that, then they're able to read it, as long as they have a mental picture. So what else can we do? Use word blocks on a word wall. Now, it may not be completely clear to you, but if you notice around the word which, we've got lines that take the shape of the word, and you help them see the shape of the word. And again, this is a mental picture that will help them remember what that word is. But excuse me again, excuse me. They just memorize the word. They cannot sound it out. And we need to be aware of that. So anything we can do to give them a mental picture will help them learn how to read that word. The other, probably most important thing is use cards that have pictures and words. So in other words, a word card like this is not good enough for a person with dyslexia, especially because you've got this letter A. And unless they have learned it and memorized it, they're not going to be able to read that. It will be a blank space. So put it on a picture card, and then they will memorize it, and they will be able to read it. The other thing is, and yes, I know this takes a little bit of time, you know, picture cards with words are good for all students, whether it's a student with dyslexia or just an average student learning English. But if you've got somebody with dyslexia, give them an opportunity to make words out of clay. It helps them form a mental picture, and then they can do rebus reading. Otherwise, rebus reading for them will not work. They will know the picture card, but if you have just word cards with he, is, going to, they will not be able to figure out what those words are, because is has no mental picture, to has no mental picture. They could do going and he, because they have a mental picture. So it's important to give them a chance to make 3D letters, three-dimensional letters, so they can see on the top and around the side and on the bottom, and then they will form a mental image of that, and then they will get the words. Sight words, again, in clay. Help them understand that and is connecting two things, two people. Let them experiment if you have a way to set up an area in your classroom for all the students to do this. I mean, it's not just dyslexic students, but all. Have them work with clay, or have them do this at home or in a special tutoring session. They will get the sight words, but they have to be done in a way that's three-dimensional. Once they have a mental picture, then they will be able to read it. Now, this one is a marvelous game that my colleague and co-author Barbara Sakamoto shared with us. We were in Taiwan at a teacher training seminar, and it's a great game for practicing words and spelling words. You put them in a box, you put them in a hat, and the student pulls it out and spells the word and then says what the word is. And when they get to the word oops, all the cards that they spelled correctly have to go back in the hat. They lose all of their points and they start over again. Now, this is a great great game for word recognition. However, a dyslexic person would have trouble with this game. So what could you do to help make this game a possible game for that person to play? How would we alter that? Any idea? Make pictures nearby, exactly. Have pictures, perhaps you could have those words pictured with pictures on the board in front of them, or make these cards into cards with the picture and the word, exactly. It's absolutely so important for us to do that for them. And I do see there was somebody talking about working with secondary school learners, and they have problems with numbers that you could never ask them to manipulate things. But ladies and gentlemen, in math, we can have them manipulate cubes, even in high school, and have them come up with the equation or manipulating objects. There are ways you can get symbols that are mathematical symbols, but they are three-dimensional, and it will help them to manipulate those things. And we can talk a little bit more later if you have more questions. Okay, another way to help our students is once they've had that mental picture of the words, you know, they've developed that, they've made the words in clay, then use repetition with known words so that they can practice reading. So for example, if they've already made the word this in a clay form and is in a clay form, and even they probably will need to do that, then practice reading that over and over. And there's a lot of research that says how important repetition is to our students in general. Even songs, the songs like Pharrell's Happy Because I'm Happy, we repeat the word happy, happy. We remember songs that repeat the same words over and over again much faster than we remember a song that doesn't include a lot of repetition. It's the same thing with reading. When we're trying to help our kids read, then we want to use repetition. Now, when you're at the secondary level, they're at a different level, of course, but they started out needing this in elementary level. So if they didn't get this in the elementary level, then this is helping us as teachers understand why the student is having problem. And these are options that you can do with them on a private basis to just help them get it. And then they can move forward with their classroom. And you can explain to them that this is what you're doing. Likewise, math symbols, there are 3D magnetic numbers and mathematical symbols, and the kids can use that. They can draw their own pictures. This is another thing. If they can draw a picture to help them remember, this is another good strategy, especially at the older levels. If they make their own notes with pictures, that will help them remember. Now, what are some common problems in teaching activities? I've already mentioned the alphabet song. I've already mentioned the problem with reading, with rebus readers. But another thing is scrambled words. If you have words with the letters scrambled all over the place, that's going to cause more confusion for our students with dyslexia because they already scrambled the letters in the words. So it's an activity that is probably not the best to do with them. What you could do is show them a picture and have them take letters and letter blocks and try to spell out that picture or the word for the picture. Or you can just dictate the words and have them write the word down. That is better than having the word scrambled. Scrambled sentences, it's the same kind of thing. If you got a bunch of words that are in mixed order, you really need to have pictures with them to help them figure out how to put that sentence in order. Okay, so I've talked a lot about, some of these little techniques and things you can do, but what are other ways that we can help our students? Listen to them. Take the time to find out what it is that they are struggling with. Let them talk to you. They're probably, most of our dyslexic students are highly intelligent, very bright, and they're trying to figure out themselves how to keep up with what's going on in class. So take the time to talk with them and see where their frustration is, and then they can tell you what they're thinking and what they're struggling with, and together you can try to come up with a solution. I think the biggest thing we need to know as teachers is our students who have dyslexia have their own unique way of dealing with things, and no two students are the same. Every student has different strategies that they've learned to help them succeed. And so the only way that we can really understand what strategies the students use to try to be successful is to take a little bit of time to talk to them. So take the time to listen. And that means learn, inquire, simplify, check up, encourage, and network. Let me explain what I mean. Learn. Learn about the student, especially at the beginning of the year. Take the time, if you realize that you've got somebody with dyslexia, in a parent-teacher conference to find out what kind of challenges that student has had, what kind of techniques they've used to help the student learn, so you know what the student is capable of doing and what strategies the student is used to. Also, find out from the student what they learned today, what they really want to know, what they liked. And then use real-life stories that will inspire your students. Remember that list of names of all those famous people that have dyslexia or had dyslexia? Well, let your students be aware that there are these people and find out about their life stories and how they push through. Magic Johnson has had learning challenges. Will Smith, but they didn't give up. Let the kids see that you can work through it. And these people are as intelligent as you are, and encourage the kids to try, because it is possible to be successful. Find out what their favorite characters are, their favorite activities, and put those keywords on popsicle sticks with those pictures. This is just kind of a random collection, but you can, pair the words up with things that are significant for the students, and they can manipulate and practice. Also, you can use realia and combine it with words that have pictures to help them understand what those words are. All of that will help the kids in their reading. Second, also simplify. Whatever you do in your class, follow a routine so that the child knows what your expectation is. Use repetition and slowly develop the language, spiral the language, and make sure to review, whether it's in math or in English, review what they already know, and then reassure them that they know that before they get into something new. They need to have confidence, so you need to do the review. Because our students think multidimensionally, we need to include kinesthetic, physical kinds of learning situations. That's why I keep talking about manipulatives, things that they can move around and things they can touch so that they can form a mental picture of them. Do lots of auditory fun things. Use videos in your classroom. Again, these individuals they think mentally, they think in pictures, so they have to have as much auditory and visual input in class as possible. Don't give them readings that are too long, because that will be frustrating for them. And there are ways that you can help them read a sentence at a time, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Lessen the amount of vocabulary you're covering. Make sure that they understand what you're covering, and then move on. And again, at the high school level, the secondary level, obviously, you are covering a lot more vocabulary, but start slowly and make sure they get the keywords, the foundation words, and then you add more. With phonics, like I said before, it's hard for them to hear them, so put words in pictures and help them understand that all of these words begin with the same letter. And they're not necessarily going to hear the phonics, but they're going to understand the concept that these words begin with the letter B or the letter P. And these 6 consonants, actually, if they learn this along with words that have the short vowel sounds, they can create a lot of words using that, and they will be able to read a lot of words early. And again, this is at the lower level, but it's the foundation for what our dyslexic at the upper level should have had before they got to the upper levels. Now, build left to right reading skills. Even in our secondary students and our adults, one of the techniques that is used to help them focus is to cover all the words and all the sentences around and just focus on one word at a time. This is a technique used by Ronald Davis and those that are working with students that have reading problems. So you cover the word and allow one word at a time to appear and help them get that sentence. And if it's confusing, go back to the beginning, and if you need to, have them bring out a 3-dimensional way to view that word and go over it again. Don't continue to the point of frustration. Tell them to step back, take a breath, and then look at it again. And as I said, use multisensory activities in every lesson. Shapes, blocks, and pictures and reality as much as you can for them to work with. Okay, now, we are lucky. We are living in an age now where there's so much available online. So we need to tech up. Use applications that are apps that are on iPads or any other kind of tablet, and do speech to text where the kids can talk into a microphone and this machine will convert it into text. Also, there's something called Whisper Sync, and it's an app that allows the students to switch between reading a book and listening to a book. There are audio books. There's something called Live Scribe Smart Pen, which is a computerized pen that if the kids try to write something with, it's translated into text. And then there's a Franklin Speller, which is a mini electronic dictionary. But the other thing is that Windows has a customized toolbar with Speak in it, so they can adapt their computer if they have Windows to include a speaking app on the computer. The Mac has something called Dictation and Speech. Google Docs has voice typing. There are lots of technology tools available to you as the teacher to help your kids. And one of the things that's in secondary school, but as well as at elementary level, when they do projects, put them in groups and encourage the person that has dyslexia to, be creative and share their ideas and have somebody else write down those ideas. It's a group project, so they can talk about it and work together. Likewise, if you have that student needing to do a presentation, don't make them write it down. Let them use one of these recording devices, and they can say their speech into this device, which will translate it into text, and then the presentation can be printed out, and that can be handed out or handed in to you. So there are lots of ways by using technology. You can give them support to do projects and to be part of the class. As I said, we need to encourage them in every way we possibly can. Kids don't want to stand out and seem like they're dumb. And we know all kids can be kind of cruel. We want to encourage them and have them continue to try and have them work with the talents that they have. I found this on Facebook, and I really love this, encouragement. You can do it. You've got this. Continue to give that to all the students in your class, but especially to those that are struggling, like somebody with dyslexia. And last but not least, is network. Network with other teachers in your school, in your community, through online teacher forums and chats. We are here to help each other. Nobody has all the answers, but we're so lucky that we can have these online webinars and online sharing opportunities. And we don't have to travel. We can just turn on our computer and we can be in touch with each other. So network. And last but not least, just remember that everyone has gifts. And I will tell you the picture of the woman here on this side, that is my sister who has Down syndrome. And I have been amazed at what she has learned through the years. She's not dyslexic. She did learn to read, and it's amazing what she's able to do in spite of the challenges that she has. So we just need to remember as teachers that our dyslexic students actually have a lot of gifts. They often are very, very intelligent, and they can learn with the proper encouragement and support and the right tools and the right techniques. Thank you. That is the end of the presentation, and I am so thrilled that I had a chance to spend time with you. I'm sorry that I'm not back at the chat yet. I'm going to turn it on now, but I definitely am glad that we had an opportunity to spend time together today, and if you have questions, please share them.
Thank you so much, Karen. We have been focusing a lot on your talk, and I was trying to figure out the chat because we had some problems with the chat. The both of us could see probably everything that participants have been typing. Unfortunately, there have been some glitch in WebEx, but I was trying to copy everything important and have taken a lot of questions. And I would like to say that, first of all, I would like to ask a question before everybody regarding these tools that you have suggested for speech to text, right, or text to speech. Are they only working for English language, or do you think that they are available when students are speaking Croatian, French? Because I haven't practiced with other languages except English.
Mariana, that's a good question, and unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that. I would suspect that there should be these types of technology things available in other languages too. Of course, it's in English, but
yes, it's mainly in English. It's mainly in English, but I hope that they are going to make, or maybe they are going to make several apps for tablets. For instance, when I was trying to speak in Croatian on my tablet for like this voice to text, it changes some of the words in Croatian. He recognizes and he thinks that I have said something in English and types an English word. So I've noticed, but all in all, I think the technology is improving, so we never know what can happen. If you are allowed, I would like to ask you questions. For instance, one of the participants, Ignacia, she said that, don't know, that was during your talk, is it a way to compensate the frustrating activities connected with reading? I mean, the fact that they love images. So it's a bit maybe, it was maybe taken out of the context during your talk. So how frustrating is maybe the reading activities for the students, and the fact that they probably love more the visuals?
Well, it is very frustrating, and they do their best. And some, you know, again, it depends on each child, because each person with dyslexia has a different level of problem. For some, it's relatively minor, and they can easily adapt, relatively easily adapt to whatever reading activity we have. But there are some that get so confused and they lose time and space connection, and they just can't do it without visuals.
And I'm just reading the comments. I suppose you can, that people are saying thank you so much. It was a great webinar, and that they have benefited a lot. There is also a good question: how independent are the students as far to follow up activities and self-study are concerned? I mean, with homework. How independent are in doing homework?
You know what, Marianne? The thing that I have found, and the more I read and learn, is that people with dyslexia, they are highly intelligent, and they want to succeed. So they will do their best to succeed. Now, again, it depends. There are some children that have such severe problems with dyslexia that they would have trouble with homework. So I think that's where I mentioned find out about the student, talk to the family, see what things the kids have been taught to do at home and how they cope, and if they've had treatment of any kind, what their strategies have been. So once you know that, then you can personalize and differentiate for that student so that they can be successful. And it may be that they need to spend some time with you as the teacher in a one-on-one conference to do something. Yeah. But it is individual.
Yeah, Olga has a question, but somehow I think you have answered it. I think it's a bit difficult to diagnose whether the person has dyslexia or not, especially in the early age, some say. And so Olga has a question. In the kindergarten, can it be diagnosed even then?
I think you would have an idea, but I'm not one who wants to label anybody, especially if they're very young. I try to avoid labels. But that is around the age where the problem becomes more apparent, because they are starting to read. And the fact that they do not think in sounds, they think only in pictures, then they will begin to have dyslexia noticed more. And again, it depends on the school system that you're working in, what support services are there. But I do really recommend reading this book about the gift of dyslexia. There is a center in California where they actually teach some techniques to people with dyslexia that help them read. And it's the most amazing thing to read. And they have step-by-step instructions in this book on things that parents can do and teachers can do. So I highly recommend reading that, and then you can adapt your class to that.
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm pasting the Google form for the certificates if anybody would like to get the certificate before you leave. There have been lots of questions, and I know that in my school we have been dealing with dyslexia. We had an expert coming telling us how to try to deal with the text, how to prepare exams or any other written material, what kind of font to use, how to make it big or small, so that students do not get confused, for instance, with the letter I and the letter L sometimes in typing. So these are all good ideas, and I'm going to share them with the participants. There's also a question of what about the learning environment, and also what do you think about mind mapping? Vivian says that she thinks that she can use them, and are they good for children with dyslexia? Mind mapping, what do you think?
Well, again, it's a picture form, you know,
yes,
it's creating a visual image. So I think anything that we can do to get a visual image in front of our students who have this problem, and all students, you know, if they can form a visual mental picture, it will help them. And if you want to use mind mapping, and rather than put words in there, they can cut out pictures from a magazine to help with that. I mean, you can adapt it to work for the kid that's in your class. But I think mind mapping would work okay. I don't see why it wouldn't.
I would just like to add something. I wrote in the chat that I had only worked once with a dyslexic student, and he was diagnosed very early, probably in the first year of his primary school. So his mother was also a primary teacher, and she was really working hard with him. But I remember when we were doing certain sessions and everything else, sometimes his brain would work fine. He wouldn't have any problems. He was a high school student at that point. but sometimes it was like totally blank. Nothing could enter into his head. And this is what he told me, and I'm sharing this with all of you, that sometimes if it's not his day, he will not be able to do anything. And unfortunately, if we as teachers are facing this, and our students are doing an exam or something, I think we should give them the second chance, because sometimes he would know. He knows a lot, really. They are really smart, and he was very talented for meteorologist. He is now studying, of course, and I know that in some universities in Croatia, even these dyslexic students are allowed to, I think, record the presentations in the faculty. So, but they have some talent, as you have mentioned in your presentation, which is probably hidden, like a text in one of the course books that I'm doing, a hidden talent. And all of these famous people you have mentioned are in the text as well. And I know my students always react very well with this. And this was very interesting talk, and I think we have all benefited a lot.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Mariana. And it is a topic that I would like to see all of us continue to explore and share ideas about, because I think that our education system around the world, the way it's been structured, works very well for certain kinds of students, but there are other extremely intelligent students that need some different support, and our students with dyslexia do. And I know somebody asked about having a student leave the classroom to go to an inclusive class. Is it good for self-esteem? You know, are they leaving your classroom and going to a special class?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that could be a problem. On the other hand, it could be a benefit. It just kind of depends on how people handle that. But I think that maybe if there's something available after school for the student as well, that might be a good way to approach it. But read what this book says that I mentioned, because it's got techniques that will help the student, so the student can actually stay in the classroom.
I would like to add and read the comment by Ignacia Milasu, because unfortunately I'm not sure whether everybody is able to see them due to those glitches in the chat. So Ignacia says something that many of us teachers are aware of, that the students sometimes, or maybe even the parents, don't want us to know that they have this certain difficulty, right? And that's one of the biggest problems. I know, because I have discussed this with many of the colleagues, and it's difficult sometimes to say to the parents, right, that they should not be ashamed of this, that this could be some kind of disability, right, but it doesn't mean that their child is not intelligent or smart enough to figure out. It's better to help them now and to figure out what is actually the problem. So I think that's sometimes very difficult. Thank you, Ignacia, for this comment.
No, I agree with you. I'm writing something here. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, in Croatia, all of the schools are...
Mariana, let me just say this to all of us that are still here. There are times where you may just have to work with the student. If the parents themselves have difficulty accepting the fact that the child has a challenge in learning, then work with the student with a very positive, encouraging attitude, and, you know, just work together with the student. You don't even have, we should try to avoid labels. I think nobody wants to be labeled. So we just need to let our students understand we are there as their teacher to help them. And you don't even always have to say something to the parents, especially if they're a secondary student. You know, it's work with the child and give them the tools that will help them succeed.
Sometimes we try to know best for our students, and we are probably learning by doing. We will probably make mistakes, and we don't really even know which dyslexic student is going to, what kind of things are going to work with them. But I think what you have said, to have teacher assistant from everybody in school is very good, and from I don't know, psychologists, the pedagogists, and everybody else, so that we are all included in this. And I know, and Ignacia is correct, in being inclusive schools, inclusive classes are not always very easy, right? And
challenging for us as the teachers.
Yes, especially for the teachers. Sometimes they are left alone to do everything. Okay.
Mariana, that's why I am encouraging all of us to stay in touch with each other, because we can learn by doing. We try it, we make a mistake, we find something that works, we find something that doesn't work. But I think we need to support each other, because bottom line, as teachers, we want all of our students to succeed. And so, and when you have a large class with a lot of students, it's such a big job, and it is so frustrating when you really know you need to spend time with that student. So if you can share ideas with each other, stay in touch. You know, this group that you work with, this eTwinning group, it's marvelous.
Yeah, yes, and Olga just said, she's quoting you, we can network, right? We can network, we can share in eTwinning, we can share in our staff rooms in our own schools. If that doesn't help, we are always online, and somebody will have some other things useful to say and share. So I would like to say thank you one more time to Karen. We are not going to take much of her time. Thank you everybody for coming, and I would like to encourage you to comment in the forum in our eTwinning group, because there is already a thread about dyslexia. We can discuss and comment about what Karen has just said, and maybe share some of the great infos. I know that I'm preparing lots of materials on how to adjust the text written materials for these students. It will take me some time, unfortunately, but I'm going to share it with you. Karen has already given lots of links that I'm going to also paste in our session page for Karen Talk, and you can find everything also in the chat. Karen is going to, I hope, give us the presentation as well, so we will be able to share it in the group for everybody who couldn't make it tonight. And the recording will also be right, and the recording is also be available later. Thank you all so much, and one more time, I apologize for the problems with chat glitches. WebEx is giving me headaches, believe me. I prefer another room, but unfortunately we couldn't invite Karen, but only here. And let me show myself one more time to have a screenshot. And to say, yay, I arrived.
I want a screenshot too. Just a sec. Oh, okay.
Okay, perfect. And thank you everybody one more time. Don't forget to leave your, let me find one more time the link of the certificates. And have a nice weekend. In Croatia, we are celebrating St. Nicholas, and my children are waiting for many presents to be left for them. I don't know whether it's the same in other countries, suppose. Yes, the same. Yes, excellent. So I hope I'm going to get something too.
Good. I hope so.
Yes, okay.
Thank you to all the teachers who were here today. It was my pleasure to work together, and I really hope we stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of ideas that all of us can share. So.
Well, I think that as a visitor to our group, I will try to figure that out, and I think that's possible. So we can, you can come and join us, maybe chatting, tweeting, but also we are on Facebook. We have a Facebook page and everything else. And we all of you, Karen. Thank you so much. We will be in touch. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Bye-bye.